All right, guys, we've got birds in here. We're about to put them in. Got new baby birds, and then of course everybody's excited about that. They're just wanting to watch everything. But I wanted to go over a little bit video here, and I wanted to tell y'all what you want to prepare for, how you want to get everything ready for brooding your babies. Okay. Everybody knows that we raise our chickens on pasture. We raise all of our birds on pasture, okay? But I've seen a few people, they're a little bit confused about it. Some people think that you can raise chicks on pasture. Do not do that, okay? You need to brood these babies. These babies were meant to be kept warm in a nice, comfortable environment. So we keep them in here for about 3 weeks, okay? So I want to show you what we do to get ready. All right, we always like to have a feed. You want to be very cautious about making sure that the feed is at the height of the baby bird. So I'm gonna go ahead and get one of these little babies here. We're gonna put that baby down in there, okay? You want that baby to be able to get to that feed, okay? Actually get up to it. And you want to make sure you get an actual chick starter feed, and a feed that's not too big for that baby, okay? And then the same thing for the water. You want to make sure that the water is at a good height to where that chick can actually get to it, okay? Now, some people go through and dip each baby chick, that dip their beak into the water. I have never seen that to be necessary. We don't do that. Chicks in nature, they find water, so we never do that. But one of the most important things you want to do, and especially if it's cold outside, but really no matter what, is you want to make sure that your bedding itself is warm, okay? So even if it's a warm day outside, now if it's a very, very hot 100-degree day or something, it may be different. But if it's, say it's 70, 80 degrees outside, you still want to warm your bedding up before they get in here. So like today was a cool day, so this really is something you want to do. This bedding can be a lot cooler than what they need. So we turn these heat lamps on, and we've had them on all day. Today, it's probably about 40 degrees outside. You don't want to shock that baby, okay? Those babies are used to being kept very warm. So typically, in the chicken industry, they usually require those floors to be about 90 to 93 degrees for the actual floor itself, okay? We don't actually come in there and check it ourselves. All we do is we turn the heat lamps on and get that bedding nice and warm. Those wood chips can be cooler than what you think. Now, I do want to say this as well. These wood chips are not, they're a little bit big, okay? We're using these just because we're using up what we have, and these are fine. But ideally, you want something just a little bit smaller than this. But you don't want to go too small either, because you don't want to use a fine, like we have a lot of sawdust here on the farm from our sawmill. But you don't want to use that because then it gets all caked up and matted. You want it to be the urine and water to be able to just easily soak through and get to the bottom, okay? But you also, this is a bit big because they can get these flakes and they'll get them over in there into their water, and it's really easy to just flip over there into their water, okay? So a good medium size, a little bit smaller than that, is really just about perfect. But this is fine. So we are going to go ahead and use those up. It's not going to hurt anything. It just takes a little bit more work. You gotta clean that out every day if you use that. But I would be on the lookout for a smaller wood chip, something like that. But no matter what, I would definitely not use the really small, fine sawdust, because that right there is just going to get matty. It's going to get nasty. It might be okay for a day or two, but it's not something you want to raise them in for 3 weeks. But this is kind of what you want to do to prepare. You know, you want your bedding to be warm. You want it to be warm. But another thing is, you see how we got our heat lamp spaced out? So we've got a section in here in the middle that's a little bit cooler. We're in our spring right now, and for us, spring has a lot of times cool nights, and it'll get up to 80, 90 degrees during the day sometimes. Not every day, but some days. So you want them to be able to get away from that heat if they want to, okay? So if we know we're going to have warmer days, we can control this. We can take one of the heat lamps off, whatever, you know, and we can control it a little bit. But you want to give them the chance to do it. You see how a lot of them are bunching up underneath, okay? But you want to give them a place. If they get too hot, they can get over here into the middle, okay? So keep that in mind. You don't. I have seen people where they'll have it so tight that all of them is bunched up in one area. Now, with that being said, a lot of people also, they will give them a really huge area, and that's not necessary either. You don't have to give them, when they're babies, you don't have to give them a ginormous area. When you look at birds in nature, when you look at a mama bird raising her chicks, those birds do not, when they're young, they don't go out very far. They stay in a very tight, enclosed area. They might move around a little bit like this, you know, but they stay pretty close to mama and pretty close to home for that first little bit, okay? Once they start getting older and they start getting feathers on them, then that mama will start branching out. So you don't have to just have this super broad area. The main thing you want is you want a good warm area, and then you want them to be able to spread out just a little if they need to. And you want to be able to keep your feed spread out enough to where they're not raking feed into their water or vice versa, okay? So I think that just about covers everything. We do have a couple different types of things that we'll do for covering. Savannah, go ahead and put that over. When we know we're going to have cool nights, then we'll actually use this piece of plywood right here, and we'll just put this over, and that will help keep, for one, you want to have some kind of covering at all times because that keeps predators out. And we really like these black water tubs. This is an old tub that's got a crack in it so it leaks. So this works really, really well for this because it keeps the wind away from it and everything. So when it's going to get colder, then we put this piece of plywood over, and that works pretty good. It helps hold in some of that heat. It keeps the wind and rain off. And we're underneath our lean-to right now, so that keeps all of the weather off of them. Okay, but if it's real hot and it's going to get hot that day and it's not going to get real cold at night, sometimes we'll leave the heat lamps on, and we may even put we got a little small piece of panel laying over here. Sometimes we'll put that on them. So you just you're going to have to kind of watch them a little bit. You got to play with it. Sometimes you turn off all of your heat lamps if it gets real warm. And then another thing is throughout the 3-week process, you're going to give them less and less. They don't need as much heat. So you really want to watch them, because as the time goes on, they're going to need less heat, and you can tell you'll start to see less and less of them hanging out underneath the light. Okay, they're going to start getting away from there. They're holding their feathers out, and that's usually about the time they start putting on feathers, and they don't want to be near that light. So that's your first warning sign that you're getting close to time to putting them out on pasture. So your first step after that is going ahead and turning off your lamp, giving them some time like that. You may still have to turn it back on during the night. Just depends on how cool it's getting. You have to kind of play that by ear yourself. You know, play that through, and then about that 3, sometimes 4-week mark, somewhere in there, then you're going to put them out on pasture, okay? And we're going to have another video talking more about putting them out on pasture, and we've already got a few. So if y'all don't know who we are, y'all come out, y'all look at our channel, look at all of our different stuff. We've got all sorts of different things, and y'all can see some of the other videos on that. And don't forget to subscribe while you're there. Savannah, is there anything else you want to say that I'm forgetting?
I think you covered it all.
Okay. All right, guys. So, guys, I really hope that helped. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and you have to hit the bell or you will miss some of the videos.